This election season, Madhya Pradesh, which went to polls on Friday, was the most hotly contested state for the BJP and the Congress. So in this episode, we are taking a deep dive to understand the biggest factors that will shape the results this time and how these parties took on each other to come to power. But before we talk about what's been happening this time, we look back at how we got here. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. After a decade and a half of the BJP being in power, the Congress party, under its chief Kamal Nath, had emerged victorious in Madhya Pradesh back in 2018.
स्पष्ट बहुमत, जनता का आशीर्वाद, कांग्रेस की केवल सरकार नहीं लेकिन लोकन्मुखी जनता की सरकार मध्य प्रदेश में स्थापित होगी कांग्रेस के नेतृत्व में और ये सरकार.
Now, before this long-awaited win for the party, it was Shivraj Singh Chauhan who had been the state's chief minister for 13 years.
Yeah, he was the chief minister till 2018, and this was because of the fact that office welfare schemes for women.
That's Indian Express's Anand Mohan, who reports on MP for the paper.
He had molded himself into the affable Mama. Women really liked him. People really liked him because he was this energetic campaigner who never really left campaigning. He had in touch with the public. He was constantly amongst the public and he loved doing that.
एक बार फिर मध्य प्रदेश का प्रणाम, इंदौर का प्रणाम और मामा का प्रणाम.
And apart from this and many other qualities like a very steely BJP organization ensured that Chauhan remained in power for a very long time until in 2018 he was voted out of power. And one of the reasons why people say that he was voted out of power was because of anti-incumbency, because people had sort of like gotten tired and they wanted change, and that's when Kamal Nath led Congress party had finally come to power. And the Congress party at this time was supposed to have come out of a leadership crisis because the Congress party was always known to have been divided into rival camps. Factionalism was rife in the party, and eventually Kamal Nath with Digvijay Singh at his side, they prevailed and they managed to unite the party and they won.
It was Kamal Nath who became MP's chief minister. Many within the party considered him a deserving candidate, given his crucial role in steering the party towards victory. Plus, he had experience of working with three generations of Gandhis: Indira, Rajiv, Sonia, and Rahul. But with him at the helm, Congress leader Jyotiraditya Scindia, the undisputed king of the Gwalior-Chambal region, felt slighted, especially since he had been harboring the dreams of becoming the chief minister as well. But that could not be possible.
And this is obviously because a majority of the MLAs were firmly under Digvijay Singh and Kamal Nath's camp. So obviously you couldn't make someone the CM with a minority MLA of the MLAs. And at the same time, there was also this feeling among people in the Scindia's camp that he was not given his due.
And so Scindia decided to rebel against his own party.
And eventually, because of an internal power tussle which took place, Scindia was edged out and eventually he led a defection and he brought down the Congress party government where he switched over to the BJP and marking the return of Shivraj Singh Chauhan once again.
वर्तमान में जो स्थिति कांग्रेस पार्टी में है वो कांग्रेस पार्टी आज नहीं रही जो पहले थी. एक सपना हमने पिरोया था जब 2018 में वहां सरकार बनी थी, लेकिन 18 महीने में वे सपने पूरी तरह से बिखर गए.
And Anand, how big of a deal was it for Scindia to defect from the Congress party at that time?
Yeah, so for Scindia, this was a huge gamble because you need to understand that the BJP had a galaxy of leaders to speak of, especially in that region. They're just heavyweight leaders. You have Narottam Mishra, you have VD Sharma, the state president, you have Narendra Singh Tomar. So they're just a lot of leaders, and then you have to compete for that political space. And when there's a saying, especially among Congress party workers, that when Scindia was in the Congress party, he alone used to call the shots in that region. But now he couldn't really do that because there are many more leaders that he has to accommodate inside the BJP.
So not only did he have to compete for political space within the BJP, but Anand says that he also had to ensure that those who had defected with him, his loyal supporters, found a promising career path.
Because he had established himself in the top rungs of the BJP. Eventually, he became a union minister, and he had to ensure that his supporters get plum postings, so that he could keep his flock together. And this also had consequences because the old guard of the BJP, people who've been working for decades, whose entire families have been part of BJP since its inception, were just really angry with the fact that someone who's just switched over to the BJP has been given plum postings, and so there was this friction to speak of. You must also understand that many of his supporters had to share space with their former rivals. Scindia himself had to share space with a former loyalist of his who turned into a rival, who then defeated him in the Lok Sabha elections, Mr. KP Singh. So again, he found himself back into KP Singh's fold. And so there are many such ironies that played out where, former rivals now had to share the same platform and work together, which is a very difficult thing to do.
Okay, so Jyotiraditya Scindia defects, BJP comes back to power, and Shivraj Singh Chauhan becomes the chief minister once again. And this is, of course, despite the fact that people had just voted him out of power. So considering that, does he change his style of governance this second time around?
Yeah, so Shivraj had to reinvent himself. The writing on the wall was pretty clear. And one of the most striking things that he had done, taking a leaf out of UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath's book, was transform himself from the mama who makes welfare schemes for women to bulldozer mama, right? And this was around the time when we started to see bulldozers being used to raise the homes of people accused in politically sensitive cases or heinous crimes. So their homes would be razed down. One of the big examples of it was the Khargon riots, in which homes of stone pelters who were mostly part of the Muslim community was razed down. And there were so many such examples in the state where he tried to tie it down to him targeting the land mafia, and then he would sell it to the public as, oh look, I'm trying to freeing up government property, I'm trying to free up land which has been encroached by the land mafia, and I'm trying to build houses for the poor.
और एक तरफ माफियाओं के खिलाफ अभियान चल रहा है, मसल पावर का रसूख का इस्तेमाल करके कहीं अवैध कब्जा कर लिया, कहीं भवन तान दिए, कहीं ड्रग माफिया. सुन लो रे, मध्य प्रदेश छोड़ देना, नहीं जमीन में गाड़ दूंगा 10 फीट, पता नहीं चलेगा कहीं भी किसी.
So that's how we try to sell it. But there are observers in the state who are of the view that, that Shivraj, who used to attend Eid functions and, who's pretty much been secular and who's never really been a hardline leader, as a Yogi Adityanath, could never really fit into those shoes, could never really pull off the bulldozer mama gimmick, and it didn't really work. And plus, considering the fact that there's just 7% of the population which is Muslim in this state, so the fault lines between the Hindu and Muslim communities are not really that huge when you compare it to a UP. So that didn't really have such a huge impact that it would wash away the anti-incumbency, is what many political observers, including party members from both parties, have told us.
And Anand, now let's talk about what has happened this time. BJP has been facing anti-incumbency just like it had back in 2018. So how did the Congress party take advantage of that during its campaign?
So the way Kamal Nath and Digvijay Singh have tried to attack Shivraj Singh Chauhan is, one is, like we said, he just loves these public outings and his gatherings, and then, he would go make these announcements. And so Kamal Nath and the rest of the Congress party would attack Shivraj Singh Chauhan and call him an announcement making machine. They would say that his announcements are all, they're just gimmicks. He's never really built anything, that there's nothing really to showcase, couldn't get the Bhopal metro running, there's no Indore metro to show for, that he's made 22,000 announcements, not even 21 government jobs. So they would attack him on that front.
अब समय आ गया जब झूठ की मशीन और घोषणाओं की मशीन बंद होने जा रही है और मध्य प्रदेश की जनता विदा करेगी शिवराज सिंह जी को, जिन्होंने 18 साल हमारा प्रदेश को एक चौपट प्रदेश बना दिया है. इसमें कोई शक नहीं है.
Then there was also this sense with the BJP where they tried to sideline him towards the start of the election campaign. Obviously their feedback had said the same thing, that there was anti-incumbency, so they tried to sideline him and bring in other central leadership, heavyweight leaders, and he wasn't given an important space in the Jan Ashirwad Yatras. And usually it was tradition that Shivraj Singh Chauhan would lead these yatras where he would go and seek people's blessings, and he really didn't take center stage the way he used to. And it was these central leaders including Prahlad Patel, Kailash Vijayvargiya, Narendra Singh Tomar, all of these people who sort of like led these rallies in different parts of the state, and Amit Shah had taken full control of the campaigning.
मैं मध्य प्रदेश की 9 करोड़ की जनता को भरोसा दिलाने आया हूं कि आने वाले अमृत काल का समय मध्य प्रदेश को देश के सबसे विकसित राज्यों की श्रेणी में रखने के लिए और संपूर्ण आत्मनिर्भर राज्य बनाने की दिशा में हम काम करेंगे.
And it was very clear that the state leadership not really in control, and it was the central leadership have taken control. So then Kamal Nath would hit Chauhan with this, saying that that if the BJP is so proud of its achievements and is so proud of Chauhan, why has he been sidelined? Are they ashamed? So they would attack the chief minister on various fronts such as this.
And among the other challenges that even the opposition leaders have been pointing out is the ongoing drought and the farm distress in the state. This year, 20 out of the 52 districts received deficit rainfall. Could you talk about how that has affected the voters and the extent to which this became a poll issue?
Yeah, so nobody really likes a drought, especially during an election year, and especially in a state where, over 60% of the people are engaged in agriculture work. This is a largely agrarian state. You have people across communities who work in their fields, whether you go to Gwalior Chambal or you go to Bundelkhand or you go to Chindwara, wherever you go to.
मध्य प्रदेश में किसान बारिश नहीं होने की वजह से परेशान हैं।
खरीफ की फसल सोयाबीन को किसान पीला सोना मानते हैं और फिलहाल सोने पर संकट आ गया है बारिश की वजह से।
With the rain deficiency having a negative bearing on the kharif crop just 2.5 months before the elections, the ruling BJP leaders are concerned. The development is also
and the other thing that was really affecting the farmers was the fact that there was irregular electricity in the field. So they would go and they would work on the fields, and suddenly there would be a power cut of sorts, and then that would add to the frustration because then they would have to use their diesel generator sets. So then that basically means that now you have to buy oil and you need to pump that, and then there was a period of time when the cost of urea and fertilizers and seeds and all of that was like comparatively high. So that took a pinch from their pockets. There was also high inflation in the country. The prices of food items had risen at the time, so the cost of living had pretty much risen, and that had taken a toll on the farmers. So all of it put together had really packed a punch, and the situation was so dire that Chauhan's team had gone into a huddle. Chauhan himself had to go to Mahakal Lok temple, and he had to make a symbolic gesture to the rain gods, and he had to really pray to the rain gods. He'd ask people to conserve electricity. He'd ask them to follow whatever rituals, and said that it's going to be a hard year. And he also tried to offer monetary relief. There's the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi where farmers get 6,000 rupees stipend, right? So Shivraj Singh Chauhan gave 6,000 rupees more. So that's 12,000 rupees that a farmer gets. And this was done to ensure that there's a healing balm of sorts.
हमारे किसान साथी फल सब्जी उगाते हैं, पशुपालन का काम करते हैं। पीएम किसान सम्मान निधि से ऐसे करोड़ों छोटे किसानों की मदद हो रही है।
But when you go to these farms and these villages, and and when you see that even they lack basic facilities, even though the government has built them toilets, there's no upkeep, and you see water tankers being built at the last moment, you see drains being built at the last moment, you see even though there's electricity, there's just power cuts every now and then. So that really irritates people, and eventually there's this yearning for change, which was what the last election was about, but then the government was brought down. So here we are back again.
Right, and when we talk about the opposition strategy, the other thing that stands out are the corruption allegations that have been leveled against the BJP. Could you talk about what the Congress has been saying in that regard?
Yeah, so the Congress party, their strategy has always been to not let the BJP set the narrative in this election and to start campaigning early on to ensure that they set the narrative on hyper-local issues to make sure that the BJP doesn't set, because the BJP is extremely good at setting narratives, and the Congress wanted to make sure that they just speak on their weak points, that they just end up defending themselves, because that's what a government in power, that's what a ruling party always ends up doing, which is always end up defending themselves, even though Amit Shah tried to come here and change the game by setting them on an offensive. So what the Congress party did was the first thing that really helped them out. I mean, of course, there were a series of allegations right from recruitment exams, like you had the Vyapam scam, which was quite famous. So then the Congress party leaders would talk about the deaths which happened subsequently, and they would rake those issues up. And then eventually you had the Patwari, which is the revenue officer exams scam is what they called it, because 7 out of the 11 toppers of the state emerged from a test center in Gwalior, which was owned by a sitting BJP MLA from Bhind, who eventually lost the BJP ticket because of this controversy.
चौपट प्रदेश, चौपट स्वास्थ्य व्यवस्था, चौपट शिक्षा व्यवस्था, चौपट कृषि व्यवस्था, ये तस्वीर आप सबके सामने है कि कैसी ये चौपट सरकार चल रही है. विकास किसका हुआ है?
Then eventually Saptarishi statues at Mahakal Lok corridor, a few of them fell down and then they broke because of high wind speeds, and then there was allegations that they were made of poor material and that the BJP had cheated God himself. So then that was like a golden bullet of sorts that the Congress party had gotten.
6 मूर्तियां यहाँ डैमेज हो चुकी हैं. करोड़ों रुपए की लागत से महाकाल लोक बनाया गया और करोड़ों रुपए इन मूर्तियों में लगाए गए. उन बताया गया था कि फलानी जगह से बन के आ रही है, जिसकी कीमत मान लो 1 लाख थी, उसके लिए 25-25, 10-10 लाख रुपए लगाए गए. और आज ये हालत है कि हल्की सी बारिश में, हल्के से तूफान में ये मूर्तियां नीचे गिर गई हैं. और
So the Congress party has been able to use some of these incidents to sort of like try and paint this as a government which has committed 250 scams.
Okay, so considering the anti-incumbency, the farm distress and the corruption allegations, how confident is the BJP about coming back to power? Is it confident?
So, I mean, on the face of it, they do say that they're going to retain power, that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes and, he had like a marathon, like 14 plus rallies that he did in the last 10 days, especially in tribal seats where he would go and he would just say that the Congress is just so nervous that they're just given up, that they're just not ready for a fight, that there's infighting in the Congress, whether Kamal Nath and Digvijay have started fighting with each other, and that the Congress party workers haven't really left.
मतदान में अभी इतने दिन बचे हैं, लेकिन उससे पहले ही कांग्रेस का झूठ का गुब्बारा पंक्चर हो गया, फूट गया है. कांग्रेस के झूठ के गुब्बारे की हवा निकल गई है. और आपने देखा है ना, जब गुब्बारे की हवा तेजी से निकलती है तो वो कैसे लड़खड़ाता है, शोर मचाता हुआ इधर उधर जाता है. वैसे ही हारते हुए कांग्रेस के नेता इधर उधर भागते हुए अब सिर्फ शोर ही शोर मचा रहे हैं. कांग्रेस के पास MP के विकास,
but that really hasn't been the case, and there are some sections of the BJP who are pretty apprehensive about this chest beating because we must understand that there has also been lukewarm response to their rallies, right from the Jan Ashirwad Yatra rallies, where there were just thin crowds and empty seats greeting many of these leaders. And there was also Jan Ashirwad Yatra, I remember, which was attacked, where BJP leaders, the convoy was pelted by stones by angry villagers. So similarly, there are cadres who didn't really go and canvass for BJP leaders in certain parts, because there was this feeling that the experimentation that the BJP did by introducing the union ministers and so on and so forth, the deep surgery which was sort of required, where they had to really clear house, remove 10, 15-year-old MLAs who are not perhaps performing really well, perhaps to replace them. They didn't really do that because the BJP didn't really want to rock the boat too much, and so the cadres weren't really enthused with that as well. So there's also this feeling among many quarters is that what a lot of the leaders say is that Ladli Behna tha, nahi to Safaya tha. So they say that Ladli Behna is probably a game changer for them, otherwise they would have just been swept away.
And for those who might not know, could you talk about what the Ladli Behna scheme is and why Chauhan has chosen to focus on women voters?
Yeah, I mean, so like we said that, Shivraj Singh Chauhan was the bulldozer mama the last time we spoke about him, right? Then he got sidelined, and then the heavyweight BJP leaders were dispatched. So Chauhan, instead of going out into the setting sun peacefully, he didn't really do that. He fought back in his own humble way, which was basically, he went back to his roots. He went back to the women of the state. He addressed emotional rallies where he asked women whether he should compete or not. He would say that, you're going to miss me when I'm gone. You're not going to get a brother like me. And then eventually you had this feeling that this is an emotional CM. And then suddenly a few days later, when you see that Mr. Chauhan has introduced 33% reservation for women in government jobs, across the board, there's this realization that this is his defiance. And then you see that he has completely gone back to his roots and he's embraced the women voters. And he's depending on the biggest game changer, which the BJP thinks is going to win them this election, which is the Ladli Behna Yojana. It is a monthly stipend, started off at rupees 1,000, and 1,000 rupees would go into the bank accounts of poor women in the state.
बेटियों के बिना ये दुनिया नहीं चल सकती और इसलिए बहनों और भाइयों, मध्य प्रदेश की धरती पर सबसे पहले हमने बनाई लाडली लक्ष्मी योजना, क्योंकि मुझे पता था कि बेटी जब तक बोझ रहेगी दुनिया बेटी को पैदा नहीं होने देगी, और इसलिए मैंने तय किया बेटी को बोझ नहीं रहने देंगे, बेटी को वरदान बनाएंगे.
This really set alarm bells running into the Congress camp, and then the Congress party came up with its own scheme where they promised 1,500 rupees. So then Shivraj Singh Chauhan upped it and he came up with 1,250 rupees, and then he promised to take it to 3,000 rupees. So we had at least 5 installments of Ladli Behna Yojana money, which has gone to the poorest of poor women. There are women, especially, who survive on a salary of 150 to 300 rupees per day doing back-breaking work. For them, it's like 4 to 5 days of salary, So that really makes an impact for those women.
And Anand, what would you say has been the general reaction of the people to this scheme?
So we must understand that this is a feudalistic society, Madhya Pradesh, Women really do not have decision-making power in large swathes of this land. So this gives them just that little bit of economic decision-making power inside the household. A little bit of power. In fact, it has also rubbed the men the wrong way. In my conversations with men, they fume at the fact that their women are being given money. They say that, that lollipop de rahe hain, mama ji, hamare auraton ko, that our women are being given money, their votes are just being bought, but there's also this anger of just that little bit of economic decision making sort of like coming into them, that they don't really have to rely on their husbands for every small little thing now. They can at least buy something for themselves, which includes books for their kids, biscuit packets, makeup kits for themselves, chocolates, school uniforms, or whatnot. So the BJP is of the hope that this is going to be the silent voter who's going to quietly go and press the Kamal Ka button on November 17th and really close the gap for the BJP.
Right, and the other thing that really stood out in BJP's campaign, of course, besides the development pitch, was its Hindutva plank. Did that resonate with the people in the state?
So, just like the corruption allegations were gifted, it just landed on Congress's lap. The Hindutva angle also sort of like just landed on the BJP's lap. If you would remember that DMK leader Udayanithi Stalin had made a comment on eradicating Sanatan Dharma, and the BJP was of the view that they could milk this controversy and really bolster their chances at winning this. And then you had everyone right from the Prime Minister till your lower level cadres who were talking about the Sanatan Dharma, about how it was in danger, about how the Congress party and its India alliance partners were basically Chunavi Hindu, which is basically like they were just Hindus during elections. They were just Hindus to seek votes. They didn't really care about Hinduism,
आप क्या उम्मीद करते हैं इन लोगों से जो चुनावी हिंदू बन जाते हैं? आप क्या उम्मीद करते हैं जो प्रैक्टिस कुछ और करते हैं और दिखाते कुछ और है?
It is another futile attempt by a seasonal and occasional Hindu to prove his Sanatani Hindu credential. Elections in many states have forced Rahul Gandhi once again to talk about Hindu Sanatani principles.
But in my conversations again with people, again, they don't know who Udayanidhi Stalin is. They don't know about the DMK. They don't know about Sanatan Dharma. They don't understand that controversy exactly. I mean, how it really impacts them. And this is again because the election is about core issues for them, which is just water, electricity, roads, the everyday thing which is going to make your life better. Jobs, it's such a huge part of this election. Unemployment, youth anger because of the fact that there are no jobs. You know, you go into these villages, you will see that tribal men, you just don't find them in their homes because they're in Gujarat or, you know, they're in Maharashtra, they're in some metropolitan city they're working, or they're in some metropolitan city in the state itself. And, you know, people want their men back. Perhaps they find some job here. So those are the core issues for them.
And Anand, finally, one thing that the Congress has been talking about ever since it happened in Bihar is the caste census. The party has promised to conduct a caste census in the state if it comes to power. MP is a state which is known to have a significant OBC population, about 50% in fact. So how significant was this pitch to the voters?
So, you know, when the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge had visited Sagar, this was right after Prime Minister Narendra Modi had come and he had announced 100 crore rupees temple for Sant Ravidas, who enjoys a great following among the scheduled caste population in the state. Kharge had come armed with the caste census. Then eventually you had Rahul Gandhi also, who would come, and now that's one of the main things that he keeps promising. He keeps saying that, you know, that the caste census is like an X-ray, that we need to conduct an X-ray to find out what's wrong, in the sense that how many people belong to each caste, so that we ensure that there's equitable distribution of resources to them.
तो मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि अब वो समय आ गया है कि हमें हिंदुस्तान का एक्सरे करना है. यह पता लगाना है कि अगर 90 अफसर हिंदुस्तान को चला रहे हैं और उसमें से 5% भागीदारी ओबीसी को मिल रही है, तो क्या ओबीसी की आबादी 5% है? क्या हो ही नहीं सकता. भाई और बहनों, देश के सामने एक ही मुद्दा है, कास्ट सेंसस. ओबीसी कितने हैं और उनकी भागीदारी कितनी होनी चाहिए, ये हिंदुस्तान के सामने सबसे बड़ा सवाल है. So
on paper, this sounds really good, because what it really does is that it also helps build up your own OBC base, which has been lost because the tallest OBC leader in the state is Shivraj Singh Chauhan. So the Congress leadership doesn't really have great OBC leaders in its party, because it's just two leaders who overshadow all of them. So there was this idea that perhaps reorienting your focus to social justice politics would really help them. But when I went on the ground and when I asked people about the caste census, first of all, they didn't understand the whole concept. A lot of people, they didn't know what it meant, why do it, what is the benefit of it, how does it help you out. So the message hasn't really reached the hinterland, so to speak, and the leaders perhaps may not have been effective in communicating that to them. I mean, this is just the sense that I got, because people are still very concerned about jobs. That is number one on their mind. Their farms is just those things, right? Is their livelihood. It's basic things. Some of these regions are just so underdeveloped that the assembly elections in some of these regions just feels like a panchayat election, is what many of these party leaders would say. That it's a complete slog. You know, it's literally go down to which leader is able to get water and electricity up and running in the quickest possible time. Those MLAs are the ones who are going to win, is what the sense that we got on the ground. But we can't really say for sure. We have to wait for December 3 to perhaps do an X-ray of our own and see whether the caste census did have the promised impact.
You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.